How one man, Ty Bernicke, destroyed the retirement planning industry. It is glorious to behold. It's still, to this day, it still is. 20 years later, it's wonderful. So I was just a young CFP, 2005. Got my CFP at the end of 2004. So young CFP, mind my own business, trying to make something myself in the financial industry. Just started as a broker at Legg Mason, and I had passed the exam in about a year in as a certified financial planner practitioner. And I subscribed to JFP, the Journal for Financial Planning, through the Financial Planning Association, and I read. Look, my hair's a mess. Sorry, haven't dyed my hair black yet. Fast Eddie. Fast Eddie's like, Josh, you might be more handsome if you dye your hair black. If you weren't on the live stream last night, this wouldn't make sense to you, but it's funny. And he did not say that. But anyway, and I come across this article in the JFP. I think it was a May issue, if memory serves. Let's take a look. What month was this? Is his article from old Ty Bernicke. What month was this? That looks like June issue. I thought it was May for some reason. Anyway, it says right here, Reality Retirement Planning, a New Paradigm for an Old Science, by Ty Bernicke. And it just changed I'll never forget. I read this. That makes sense. Reality retirement planning assumes that a household's real spending will decrease incrementally throughout retirement. The result is that clients can make more realistic retirement savings assumptions and will be able to retire sooner. The paper analyzes consumer expenditure survey data to determine whether people are spending less voluntarily as they age or out of financial necessity or generational differences. The conclusion that reduced spending is voluntary. Using Monte Carlo simulation, the paper runs hypothetical retirement income projections comparing traditional retirement planning, i.e. like the 4% rule, where you're spending your money increments each and every year with inflation. And under the traditional approach, the couple's nest egg would appear to be depleted by age 80. Under the reality approach, the nest egg would be over $2 million at age 80. Anyway, I'm not going to read you the whole story here because I've done this a million times on this channel. But what I want to share with you was this counter argument that Jonathan Clemens from the Wall Street Journal made right here in 2006. All right. So what happened was this was issued in I guess it was June. I thought it was May, but June, whatever, the middle of 2005. And it started to get some traction because people like me saying, yeah, man, what the 4% rule in all this scenario is based on a linear adjusted inflation spending. And it's just, there's no evidence of that. It's just what we've always assumed, but there's no evidence of that. And then Jonathan Clemens, in a last grasp to save the financial industry from basically the truth, because there's a lot of money be at stake here. The funny thing about Jonathan Clemens, and actually he has written a good book. And I talked about my last book, Relax and Retire. I mentioned Jonathan Clemens' book. I forgot what it's called, On Money or something like that. He written in 2016. So maybe he's changed his ways. But the funny thing about Jonathan Clemens, he's also like, it's time to get rid of the advisor's 1% fee. And then he went to a firm that charged 1% fee. I always thought that was funny. It's time to ban big oil, climate scientist, and then he goes to join a firm of a big oil company. The whole thing's stupid. And I have no animosity towards Jonathan Clemens. This one I did because I think he took cheap shots at Bernicke, and I'm not sure why. Because Bernicke he's from Wisconsin, dude. You know, he's probably Scandinavian background. You know, humble people from Wisconsin with Scandinavian lineage, they're not ones to tout themselves like your old buddy Josh. But I will. I freaking stood on the mountaintop. I've been doing this for 15 years with my PVC pipe and knowledge saying, hear ye, Jonathan Clemens is wrong. Ty Bernicke is right. And for that, Ty Bernicke should receive the Nobel Prize in financial planning if there ever was one given. If I ever make $1 million, I'm going to start a thing, the Nobel Prize in financial planning. We'll call it the Bernicke Prize. That's what we'll call it. Because this guy changed my life. I would not be where I am today if it was not for Ty Bernicke. Because I was like, oh, that made sense. And because it made sense. Your own observations. And this is what Bernicke's his article was, about his own observations. And then back, so you can't use observations. That's just anecdotal evidence. You can't say, well, that's inherent for everybody. You just say, this is what I've seen. But then you look at empirical research from the BLS, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and you're like, oh, in the Survey of Consumer Finances, man, freaking bugs are eating aphids are eating my wife's plants right there. I spray every week for aphids. I use neem oil because I don't like big pharma crap or big Monsanto, whatever it's called. Big Bear. So then Clemens came along with this thing right here. Saving too much for retirement? Don't kid yourself. You'll need every dollar, every centy. Every penny, whatever, Cindy. The retirement party just got canceled. Most of us aren't saving enough for retirement, and we aren't anxious to abandon our spendthrift ways. They explained the giddy reception according to a 2005 study, which found that retirement could prove less expensive than we imagined. Because most of us will choose to cut back our spending in our 70s. Okay, see, a year had gone by. That may explain the giddy reception according to a 2005 study. So Clemens is like, no, I got to hold the line. I got to hold on. There's too much money to be had. No doubt about it, it's an intriguing idea. There's just one problem. The study is flawed. I can't, oh my goodness. So he talks about Bernicke. He says, with my clients, I tend to see a spike in travel expenses early in retirement. That tends to get old for most people pretty quickly. By the time they age 75, they aren't inclined to travel as much or play golf as much, blah, blah, blah. All right. Since it appeared, Bernicke's study has been discussed in a host of magazines, including the Wall Street Journal. Financial planner to retirees. Loosen up, says one headline. Are you saving too much for retirement, says another paper. Saving too much? Trust me, said Jonathan Clemens. For most of us, that just isn't a risk. All right, so you see what Clemens is doing here. This is typical of the media. Bernicke's paper is flawed. I'm going to debunk it. And yet, when he debunks it, you're like, but that's flawed. And I'm going to share with you his own anecdotal evidence to debunk Bernicke's empirical and anecdotal evidence. This is typical of the media. Journalism is run by people that aren't very bright. They just aren't. All right, so let's look at this right here. So, yes, we do spend less in retirement. Okay, so we're admitting that. Jonathan Clemens says, yes, we do. All right. He says, the Urban Institute, folks aged 75 and older typically spend 10% less per person than those aged 65 to 74. But this drop isn't voluntary. Voluntary, yeah. To prove, and so, but that goes against what Bernicke was saying. And then Clemens says, Bernicke will prove that is voluntary because he'll use Census Bureau data, all right? And we're going to use the BLS data. Get out of here, skeeter bug. That's why I got to get out. I don't want a mosquito run around me. I know I'm sweet and taste good. Man, the only thing I should be kissing me is my wife. And she doesn't do it enough. And Papa won't kiss me either because Papa doesn't like to kiss. Finney does, but then he runs away. At first glance, Bernicke's stuff looks legit. The typical net worth. So right here, take households that fall into the bottom 20% of income. The typical net worth is $32,000 for those aged 65 to 69, $42,000 aged 70 to 60, 74, and $46,000 for those aged 40, 75 and above. All right, so again, what's happening here, he's saying we're going to take the households that fall into the bottom 20% of income. They have more net worth the older they get. All right, and this is where Clemens thinks he's being sneaky, actually. Trouble is the data are distorted because of the way the quintiles are created. You might presume that 20% of each age group falls into each quintile, but that's not true. The income cutoff for the quintiles is based on the range of the entire population. He gives an example. So, for instance, no matter what your age, you'll be listed as falling to the bottom 20% quintile if your income is $15,648 or below. Thus, 43% of households aged 75 and up fall into the bottom 20% of income. All right. 31% fall into the bottom 20% of income if they're 70 to 74. 27% if they're 65, 69. Let me just explain what's happening. More and more households fall into the bottom 20% of income as they get older. And Clemens thinks this disputes what Bernicke's finding says. It does not, though. And so just because more and more households fall into the bottom 20% of income as they get older doesn't mean they're running out of money, Clemens. And this still, to this day, still pissing me off. I'm sorry. This whole argument, even back then, I said, no, this is bad. This is bad. It really made me mad. I'm still mad by this. Because what happens? Clemens, does their net worth improve? $32,000 for the bottom 20%. So even though more and more people fall into the bottom quintile, is their net worth improving, Clemens? And the answer is unequivocally, yes. So if their net worth is improving, what does that mean? That means they're not taking on more debt, Jonathan Clemens. Yes, their income is getting lower. Wonder why that would be. Oh, maybe because of something like what I talk about. You're being poor on paper. And as you age, you don't have a job. You're just living off your Social Security. And yet if you're living off your Social Security and distributions from an IRA, you think that your income, your net worth would be going down instead of going up. Interesting, is it not? Yes, it is. So your debt isn't going up, your net worth is going up. So if you're just living on Social Security, for example, because you're in the bottom 20% of income, you don't have a job, All right. And yet your net worth is still going up. Why is that? And we're going to show you some anecdotal silliness that he uses here. When I brought this, and this is another thing that pissed me off about the freaking media. When I brought this to Bernicki's attention, he acknowledged the problem. The Census Bureau is extremely confusing, he adds. Says, adding that he plans to research the issue further. Basically he's saying, well, Bernicke didn't know what he's talking about. That's what he's trying to do there. That freaking ticks me off. Because Bernicke could have said, yeah, the Census Bureau's stuff is confusing, and then went on to show how it's not confusing once you figure it out. But Clemens didn't say that like that. He said, yeah, when Clemens said, hey, Bernicke, I got a question. Yeah, oh, yeah, it's confusing. I'm going to research this further, implying that Bernicke basically jumped the gun. Where does that leave us? Fortunately, the Census Bureau also lists a median wealth for all households in each age group. And that shows that households headed by someone 75 and older aren't richer. Okay, so now see how he's changing this? The median for all age groups versus the bottom 20%. The bottom 20% of income, their household wealth is growing. He's comparing apples to oranges here. Now, he does make a point, but he's bashing Bernicke for compares apples to oranges when Clemens does the same damn thing. So he's saying, right here, that shows households headed by someone 75 or older aren't richer. These seniors have a typical household net worth of $100,000 versus 114 from 10 years previous. Okay. The median, 50% of the people have more, 50% of the people have less. So at 114, the median, all right, this is the bottom 20%, Clemens. The median the median net worth is 114 for 65 to 69. It's 100 by the time you're 75 and older. Okay. That means you spent $14,000 of your net worth down. Is that a cause for alarm, cause for concern? You're spending down your assets in retirement? That doesn't bother me. And you still have a positive net worth, by the way, of a 6. This is back in 2006. Actually, no, it's from when the study was done. I don't know how sure it was. 2000, and I think it was 2000 or something like that, whatever it was. But then he goes on to say, moreover, for seniors, home equity is a huge part of their net worth. If you ignore home equity, households headed by someone, so now see what he's saying. Households headed by someone age 75 have a typical net. What does typical mean, Clemens? Is that the average? Is that the median? Households headed by someone age 75 or older have a typical net worth of $19,000. Remember, this is 20 years ago, maybe even 25 if you're looking at census data from 2000, which Bernicke did. That's 25 years ago. I don't have my calculator, so I can't figure out what that'd be in today's numbers. So you're saying, Clemens, households headed by someone 75 or older is a typical. I don't know if that's average. I don't know if that's median. I don't know. That's still a positive net worth if you take out home equity. The reality is most Americans don't have financial room for maneuver. They're spending less because it's out of choice, he says. And then he uses this guy right here, Harry Hebler, retired Boeing executive. The question should be, why do retirees spend less? They spend less because they don't have any money, says this guy. So let's see what this guy says. Financial planners, let's see, right here. I think the inverse relationship between spending and aging may be even more relevant for investors in the upper income quintile. So I don't disagree with that at all. If you're in the bottom income quintile, you're probably going to have to spend every penny you have. Most likely. I don't know that to be true, but that doesn't mean you're going broke. It doesn't mean you're going broke. It just means, yeah, you're spending your income coming in. Is that a bad thing? You're spending on your Social Security. You got, $10,000 from an IRA. You're spending it down. So your net worth is still growing. That's the bottom inquiry. This is why freaking Clemens pissed. This whole article pissed me off. But even if you're lucky enough to have a nest egg, don't go overboard on spending early retirement. First, retirees' cost of living tends to climb faster than the general inflation rate. We don't know that. That's just, we don't know that. Third, you might live a surprise. Right here. Mr. Hebler, the guy from Boeing, says, I work with people at our church who are 80. At 65, they thought they'd be dead by now. The reason they're home watching TV is because they can't afford to spend anything. All right, well, now we're going back to anecdotal evidence. All right, are they literally sitting home watching TV because they can't afford to spend anything, their guy from Boeing? So Clemens is going to use anecdotal evidence to offset Bernicke's empirical data? Just the whole thing is so stupid. It really pissed me off because so many people read Jonathan Clemens and say, oh, that Bernicke guy's wrong. And it's insane. And yet we got data on top. Now, 20 years later, the data is so overwhelming. And I just want to know, did Clemens apologize for this? How about the guy, freaking the Boeing guy? Did they apologize for this? Because they did not like the idea that there is a spending crisis not happening. They like the spending crisis. Work longer, save more, invest more aggressively. It just really ticks me off. And then we go right here. Again, I've been using this we go survey consumer finances. All right, we're going to go to financial assets. We're going to go to age of reference person. So what we're going to do here is we're going to go, let's not display all, let's display these guys. 55 to 64, 65 to 74, and 75 to 75 or older. And we're going to go from 1995, 2005, and then 2015, basically. All right, so 1995, let's do this. Someone who's 55 to 64 had $63,000 of financial assets. All right, in 2005, they had 122,000. Oh, no, I got to go to 65 and 74. Now I forgot what I said. Well, we'll just keep them up here. Who's Hoover? I'm freaking losing my mind. All right, right there. 1995, they had 64,000 of financial assets. In 2005, basically, 2004, a higher group, the 65 to 74-year-old, because they had their 10 years previous. All right, there's a longitudinal, not the same necessary person, but certainly the age group is getting older. They went from 65 to 56,000. Now we go to 2015, and they're 75 and older, right there. They're at $77,000. So the trajectory was they went up, they went down, now they're back up. Now you could say attribute that to many, many different things. That's just financial assets, not even net worth. Let's look at net worth, actually. You ready? And you can say, well, that could be because of good market, all that. I get all that, 100%. Let's look at net worth. Net worth is assets minus liabilities. All right, so let's take a look here. We're going to go to 55 to 64 in 1995. Net worth is $223,000. This is the median. 50% of the people have more, 50% of the people have less. We're going to go to, what did I say, $223,000. Now we're going to go to 65 to 74. It doesn't give us that. We'll say 298. So the 10 years from 55 to 64 to 10 years 65 to 74, they increased their net worth by, I think it was like $80,000. Now we're going to go to 2015, 75 and older, right? It'll be right there. It's at 326. The net worth did not decrease. Again, you can say for many different things. You can say, oh, because of this, that, and the other. But the facts are it did not decrease. It went up. And let's look at spending. Let's look at income. Ready? Now watch this where Bernicke, not Bernicke, what's the guy's name? Clemens. We got income. Before tax family income. All right. 55 to 64 in 1995 is $65,000. This is in 2022 dollars, by the way, $65,000. So it's been adjusted for inflation. Now we're going to go to, so what do you say, $65,000. Now let's go to the 10 years later. 2004 is $52,000. All right. Well, that makes sense. Why? Because more and more people are retired. This is from the age group 55 to 64 right here. $65,000. 10 years later, it's $52,000. 10 years after that, it's right there, $48,000. So the income went down from, what do you see here? 65 to 52 to 48, and yet their net worth is growing, and it grew substantially. Not just home equity net worth, but also asset net worth as well. Bernicke won the award. He won the prize. Has Clemens ever apologized for the hit job on Bernicke? It's horrible, man. Horrible freaking reporting. Horrible allowing people to assume Bernicke. It's just the way he set it up. This kind of reminds me like a 60 Minutes or a Katie Couric hit piece. Remember when Katie Couric did the hit piece on the gun owners in Virginia? If memory served, they actually recorded the thing because they said we don't trust Katie Couric as far as we could kick her, which is good. If you ever get interviewed, make sure you record it because that's what they do. They chop up this stuff. Don't ever be subjective to a media interview. I'm telling you, man, unless you're recording it. Because the media is out to make freaking money. They're not out to make you look good. That's just a fact. Anyway, God bless. Love to your thoughts. We'll see. Don't listen to the media. They're up to no good. Clemens right here proved it 100%. And actually, I like Clemens' book he had written about On Money or something like that in 2016. It's actually a good book. The way he did Bernicke here is just wrong and needs to be apologized. All right, God bless. We'll see you.